Gee whiz, I hate losing videos. But so like my objective as of right now, and obviously where the quote unquote acoustic chamber where the object of your body is sitting in the environment, and the environment having different, quote unquote structures, end quote, within where your body's at and the temperament of your body. I feel like that kind of regulates your voice because, like, if an instrument is out of tune or it's just in a different tuning, like the guitar has different tunes, then it could change its emission of pitch and voice. And then obviously the different amps and the different effects change the voice. So that's why casually the voice could be changing. But gee whiz, if anything, I hate losing videos, and I just want to say that because I'm like a free flowing person, right? Um, Within what I'm doing, and yeah, and I'm sure somehow within some advanced data, I'm sure it's preserved, but it's like people like to have things like kind of physical, people like to have things like firsthand, people like to have things like there within their possession, and then we could ask ourselves, like, why are we even following up on this type of stuff, like why do I feel like I want to like justify an external expression, I think it's because people want to tell their story, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we all like share that wisdom and insight of like we want to tell our story, and as we want to tell our story, different speed culture ideologies, they kind of put us in a mode of like quote unquote distorted end quote competition end quote, when it doesn't have to be like that. You could focus on you and your ideals, and when you focus on certain ideals that help you be a better person, then you could reciprocate and feed those ideals back. So with whatever work of energy you're doing, you could then deposit that quote unquote work of energy towards those ideals. So now you have a reciprocatory type of like relationship with the ideals themselves. So gee whiz, I'm just saying, like, last night and like the other day, I just lost two quality videos, but I'm just gonna brush it off and I'm gonna try to recycle it here. I cleaned up the memory, it was my fault. So one of my objectives is just like, it's just kind of paradoxical to me that that all of these like regurgitated rhetorical messages are here, but there's not necessarily like a disclaimer on them, and they're not necessarily true. It's just they're just using it as a tool to kind of find themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what we're actually doing here within this quote unquote spiritual work end quote is we're just kind of like we're finding ourselves. We're seeing we're discovering ourselves. We're in a state of self discovery, right? Because we can't see ourselves from the outside per se, unless you have your unique spiritual gifts that you are growing still, right? To to exponentially, right? And obviously maybe like the pause in my videos, it's good because other people have to be heard, and um there'll be a time in the future where I could there'll be like more there's just so much time in the future pretty much. So if there's so much time in the future, um then the universe is teaching me a unique type of patience, right? A type of patience where things will come when they come, and when they come, that's when that's like that's a spiritual test in how you're going to deal with that stuff. Um, so last night, what I was talking about was, people like they only know what they know based on their own unique subjective rigidity, right? So it's a subjective rigidity because they only know what they know because there's stuff that they don't know. There's stuff that's outside of their awareness, right? So if there's stuff outside of their awareness, they're based on their quote unquote scientific distorted ego that doesn't let them see other truths other than their own, a lack of their own awareness, then they're focusing on not the whole picture. And if they don't focus on the whole picture, other necessary truths critical to them, it could go over their head, right? And if it goes over their head, that could be a lack of a particular necessary nourishment for their energy growth, which they're denying and lacking. And but the proof is in the spiritual pudding. And it's just like, it's evident in how like the karma is so fucking advanced. It's so fucking like it's we don't even understand how fucking advanced the karma is because we're set and stuck on rigid shit, right? We think everything we know is fucking right when it's not. Our truth is not the whole fucking truth. And hopefully I deleted 20 minutes of video, so hopefully like I could keep streaming, but I have to be careful with my memory, right? So within saying this, like certain truths go over our head, right? And it's not necessarily whole for the modern fucking times that we're in, right? Because in the modern times, we need certain truths to help us grow and adapt. And if we don't have certain truths, we are not going to grow and adapt to these fucking times, right? We still need water to hydrate. We still need air to breathe, that type of shit. But obviously it's a little bit more complex in the modern realm, right? So within that type of fucking shit, respectively saying that to the energies, we don't see ourselves outside of ourselves in the human 3D. We don't see that. We only see what we want to see and what we're comfortable with accepting as outside criticism. Hopefully that outside criticism is in a place of grace and not toxicity, because there's a difference there. So this is advanced intelligence. Shout out to the predecessors. And shout out to all the fucking lost videos I've ever lost. All the good gems I've ever lost. Shout out to them being recovered with some real advanced tech shit, really honoring the fucking data fields and not disgracing the data fields and not being fucking fabricative with the data fields and not being, inaccurate and not being lying and not lying with the data fields. Honoring the data fields with truth. So we're not seeing ourselves outside from ourselves. And why do I bring that up? Because if we don't see ourselves outside from ourselves, then we're going to be caught up in our own quote-unquote esoteric toxic bubble, end quote. And once we're caught up in our own esoteric toxic bubble, we cap ourselves. And within that cap, we're limiting ourselves, we're restricting ourselves. And within those mother flipping restrictions, those are the essence of our blind spots. And I'm not saying I don't have, everyone has blind spots, but like you have unique blind spots, and those unique blind spots is your energetic, unique ego's rigidity, right? Because look, it's like God sees everything, no shit. But the fucking watchers in the material realm, the people in like some type of material position power, they have some type of fucking surveillance for a fucking time being, right? Isn't that fucking figgity right? So within that figgity fucking right shit, so shiggity shock schlick, they're rigid within their ego bullshit, and they don't know that there's watchers watching watchers watching watchers watching watchers, and they have no clue because they're caught and comfortable in their ego toxic bubble, right? And they have no idea that God's watching them, They're caught up in some temporary shit. And I'm not demonizing material shit. It's like, I'm just saying the key thing, the key niche thing with the material shit is that is temporary, in such a unique way. So that's like the wool being drawn from over our eyes. It's like there's kind of like a catch-22 with this material shit. That's the shit that doesn't last forever. I'm not demonizing that shit. It doesn't last forever. So last night I did a quick astrology read. Hopefully I could do a quick astrology read right now without the memory bugging out. And and this one's kind of ranty, but there's a point, because it came out differently last night. But I just wanted to say, and it's cool if you're like, I'm not trying to like, I'm not trying to fucking condescend any that is new to these truths, because I was once new too. And just good luck with the shadow work, right? And the awareness and the real truth bringers. And if you shit on that, you shit on that. That's just the lack of shadow work, and it's up to my maturity just to like see that shit, and and yeah, it quote unquote it is what it is though, end quote. But maybe I'll do an astrology reading later, because it's not necessarily like it might not like it might not slide over to like the astrology message right now. But Swaggitarrius season, watch the anime Yu Yu Hakusho, and watch the Dark Tournament, the beginning. And it's around like episode 40 to like 70, something like that. And within those episodes, that's esoteric Sagittarius season. It's like, and like, because their spirit is one with like kind of like the transformation of like spirits, right? Mutable fire. So it's spirit transformation, and within spirit transformation expressing in the 3D reality, we're using that spirit, where that transformation energy of spirit and of passion and change, to use it in the material realm with it amongst all of the other facets of the zodiac, quote unquote zodiac, end quote. So that is very like, it's like Olympic energy, competitive energy. It's very like self, like self traditional energy. Even lineage energy is there. So it's like competitive nation amongst nation. So this Sagittarius season, it's like the dark turn. It's the beginning of the quote unquote dark wars, end quote. Like standardly and esoterically, not like, and it doesn't have to like be that on blast, but that's just like my perspective on Sagittarius season. It's like, it's the beginning of the dark wars, right? Reset it. It's the prelude to like, I guess like quote unquote the Game of Thrones type of shit, end quote. And like I haven't watched the whole seasons of it. I've just seen like trailers, and I have an idea of like, they're fighting in cold wars, and there's like demons and ghosts, and there's like there's all these like different elves, and they're like, there's wars there pretty much. And that's on my bucket list to watch Game of Thrones, because I'm just trying to like paint I'm just trying to paint a picture here of like I'm just trying to paint a picture here of like, and there's my orange hat right there. And I might not post this video because the aesthetic is just, it's not there, So but I might though, I might, because obviously like I get like, if I post stuff like this, a certain reflection won't like appreciate the message, right? They'll be caught up in their, I'm like, that's not what the wealthy does, the wealthy doesn't do this like that. It's like, that's not the, it's like, just flow, motherfucker. Like, we only have one fucking life, quote unquote, end quote. Just flow, dude. Like, why do you have to put all this fucking mental baggage, mental shit on this shit? Like, it's just like, and yeah, and I'm beginning to see myself outside of myself more so as I grow, right? Because I could barely realize something that I didn't realize that other people obviously see in me that I didn't see in me. And obviously there's many different perspectives of that, and that just is what it is. But you haven't lived someone else's life, so you only have a snapshot of it. But I'm barely realizing maybe I have too much shmershishmality, and if I have too much shmershishmality, then that's just what it is, I it's up to like, the 3D reality to like kind of like ground that, and however the fuck it does, and obviously it's doing that. And now we're concluding Scorpio season, and there's a difference in the beginning of the third decan and the ending of the third decan. And the beginning of the third decan is, kind of preparing ourselves for the conclusion of the energies. And then the ending of the third decan is like how do the two elemental season signs, how they kind of like intermesh within each other, right? And they're kind of like introducing each other, and they're passing and sharing information. So within the cusping of, Scorp and Sag, there's like a particular type of relief period of like catching the plane, catching the flight. We have to catch the plane. And as we're catching the plane, when we were before the plane, we were feeling a different way. And then we're on the plane, we're feeling a different way. On the plane, we're going to a new world, right? Scorp to Sag type of shit. So board the plane from Scorp to Sag into the awareness of the quote unquote beginning of the Dark Wars Sagittarius season. Have an awesome life.